So, your speakers don't sound that good anymore. Maybe, all of a sudden, they just dropped in their performance. Or maybe you bought a vintage pair or simply a used pair, and there's something that tells you that the sound is not correct. Or, more possibly, you have a difference in the sound signature between one speaker and the other, or simply the volume of one of those. Maybe we have the solution. Are you ready? Let's dive in now. Okay guys, welcome back to Dialogue, the dialogue on analog music reproduction. Today we are going to see one of the most probably obvious for somebody, not for everybody, solution to bring back to spec your fantastic, amazing speakers. Vintage, I would say mainly, because that is where most problems take place, but not only, absolutely not only, as we will see. Okay, we're gonna go through 5 main points to try to understand what we are talking about, the different aspects, characteristics, and the solution. Are you ready? Let's go. Okay guys, this video is focusing on the problem of demagnetization of your drivers, woofers, your speakers, your loudspeakers. Meaning that at a certain point, it is a good idea to remagnetize if you experience some problems or you just think that your speakers are very old. That's why I was talking about vintage. Or you hear some differences. In any case, it's always a good idea after some time, obviously not if they're new or they have just a couple of years or 5 or 10 years and you don't notice anything, no problem there. But in all the other cases, it might be a good idea, since it's also cheap, to remagnetize your speakers.
All right, let me get this on. All right, Jamie, go ahead and put that bad boy in there. So Jimmy's going to sit that woofer right in that coil. And we're going to hit it. So now it's fully magnetized and ready to roll.
Okay, so I have some info here to share, because we're also going to see the different types of magnets and their characteristics, because I think it's useful to understand what to look out for, how certain magnets, hence certain speakers, behave, and if it makes sense to remagnetize them or not. And obviously, after these, we're going to touch 5 main types of magnets, even though the most common are 3. I'm also going to share with you some data, some info on what happened to my Altec 19. Yep, there is a little story there and my experience, and I think it is useful and interesting to share with you. Okay, let's start. So, as I said, point number 1 is the remagnetization. Yes. Obviously, we are talking mainly about dynamic drivers, clearly. Hence, woofers, as I said, drivers in general, but not electrostatic or other strange esoteric types, okay? Clearly, we are talking about classic speakers. Point number 2, something I already said actually, that it does not relate only to vintage speakers. Absolutely, demagnetization can take place for a variety of reasons, which we're about to see, to any type of speaker of this kind. So what are the causes that can bring to a demagnetization? Well, surely one of the main the main causes is temperature. Very high temperature, according to which type of magnet. There is the so-called Curie point, the Marie Curie, who practically framed a specific temperature, a specific type of amount of heat or cold, because even low temperature can affect the performance of magnets, after which the magnet is going to start to lose and sometimes completely lose its magnetic properties. So Temperature is one of the main reasons. Another important reason, mainly connected, I would say, to speakers, is shock. Meaning, if these poor speakers drop or somebody gives them some kind of bashing, hit them with something, or simply, once again, if they drop somewhere, that could cause a demagnetization. And I'm sure the problem I was experiencing, which I will discuss further ahead, is probably due to a drop. I'm not sure, obviously. It can't be 100% true, but that could be the case since they are used speakers. I don't know the history. So that's another important one. Then there are other reasons, but a little more rare in our occasions. In our case, radiations. That's not going to happen. Corrosion, clearly. Also, very, very interesting for Alnico speakers, strong pulses. Meaning, if you use modern amps with very strong power and you really crank up the volume, and we are talking of small Alnico slugs, in general, small speakers, small drivers, then that could overdrive the poor magnet and start losing a lot of dBs, okay? So be careful. Clearly this is not regarding big woofers out of Altec speakers like mine or JBL or other things like that. Usually, in general terms, this does not regard a general woofer, okay? Meaning of a certain dimension. This is mainly related to those two smaller types where the coils and different parts get really stressed by strong pulses of modern electronics. Keep that in mind. Also, again, for Alnico, dismantling the magnet, the driver, where the magnet is. If you fiddle around with it, you're going to immediately drop a lot of dBs, and the magnetization, the strength, is going to drop as well. So be careful of those Alnicos. Send them always to a tech. It's better if you don't know what you're doing, like me. Okay, point number 3. Now, finally, we're going to take a look at the different magnet types and their characteristics. And I'm going to read a little bit because there's a lot of information. No sense in summarizing. I really want to give you all the beefy info. First type, the most common of all, absolutely, which is ferrite. So I'll read. Ferrite magnets, also known as ceramic magnets, are composed of iron oxide, mixed with barium and strontium carbonate. Sorry if I'm not pronouncing these names correctly. I usually say bario e stronzio in Italian. They are relatively inexpensive and widely used to their low cost and decent magnetic strength. Ferrite magnets are commonly used in budget and mid-range audio equipment. You can find them in home theater systems, car speakers, and portable speakers. So, these are cheap compared to the other types that we're going to see. The magnetism resists over time a lot. So when they have their magnetization, it's very likely that they're going to preserve it, okay, over time. Others are going to suffer that. They're a little more, let's say, delicate. They are very heavy. I mean, the specific amount of weight, their mass, is very high in respect to the other ones. It resists to high temperatures about, a good amount, a fair amount. Like I found some info, obviously, that tells that the Curie point is 250 Celsius. Okay, we're not talking Fahrenheit, never, always Celsius here, which is a decent amount. I mean, you're never going to experience in the environment, clearly. You're going to really have to be somewhere where there's a strong heating. But there are other types of magnets that can go way above that. So that's why they're considered fairly resistant to high temperatures. And also low temperatures, when you go around minus 40 Celsius degrees, that's also a bad point for ferrite. Coming instead to the loss of magnetization, I mainly found two, let's say, pieces of information repeated in different articles, blogs, scientific papers. So, because, I mean, the time is so long to observe the loss of magnetization, it's kind of difficult to measure, truly measure. You have to recreate those conditions and accelerate and do an average measurement. So as you can understand, it's not that easy. In any case, some say, a lot say that they lose 2% of their magnetization over a year. Now that seems way too much. I don't think that is the case. Others, in fact, say that they lose about 10% of their magnetization, which is still not that much in the end, over a century. And that makes more sense, I think, because, I mean, ferrite is fairly, as I said, fairly resistant in its magnetization. Okay, let's pass now to probably the strongest of all, not probably, surely, the most strongest of all, and usually adopted in high-end speakers. What am I talking about? Neodymium type of magnets. Made from an alloy of neodymium, iron, and boron, these magnets are known for their exceptional magnetic strength and compact size. Size matters a lot here. Neodymium magnets are favored in high-end equipment. They are high-end audio equipment. They are commonly used in professional-grade studio monitors, premium headphones, size, and compact speakers, where both performance and size are critical factors. So, they are expensive because they are part of those rare type of metals, okay? They're much more expensive than the ferrite. They are very strong, the strongest of all, very strong magnets. Hence, they can be smaller also because of that factor, because they're so strong. So, hence, very dynamic. But they are fragile. Yes, they are fragile. They have to have a bad point, a weak point. So, they're more corrosive. It needs coating because they can suffer corrosion. So, that's also another treatment that brings the expense even higher. It suffers high temperature if not treated. In fact, here they indicate 80 degrees Celsius, so much lower than ferrite. Ferrite was 250. 80 is starting to be pretty low. If it's treated, they can go much more high. In most cases, they are treated, actually. It's pretty resistant to low temperatures. They become even better magnets all the way down to minus 125 degrees Celsius. So in the beginning, they even perform better when it's cold. Very strange. But after that, they dramatically lose their performance, okay? If it gets even more cold, meaning you can't use them in space. They say here there's a little more people are pretty, let's say, their ideas, their facts overlap, and they say that this type of magnet loses between 1-2% of magnetization over 10-20 years, mainly going back to the century, about 5%. So that's already half of what ferrite loses, okay? Then we come to the most important of all, especially when we're talking about vintage speakers, guitar speakers, things like that, meaning the alnico. Yes, the alnico magnet, which actually is still pretty much employed because of its characteristics. And I will try to explain why there is that special sound that so many people like. Alnico magnets are composed of aluminium, alnico, aluminium, nickel, cobalt, these three, and also iron. They were the standard in the audio industry before the advent of ferrite and neodymium magnets. So they go way back in time. Alnico magnets remain popular in vintage and high-fidelity audio equipment. They are prized for their warm sound characteristics and are commonly used in guitar amplifiers and professional audio speakers. Alnico speakers are intrinsically susceptible to modulation of the flux by the AC field from the voice coil. When operating normally, this momentary AC flux is superimposed over the permanent DC magnetic field. During normal listening, the magnetic flux is dynamically modulated, causing third harmonic distortion. This non-linearity is a major contribution to the Alnico sound, okay? And this, I want to say, comes from the source is the Audio Speaker Clinic from Vancouver, who also cites an important paper, which I will go back there in just a sec. So, a little more difficult to understand, but in any case, there is a reason why people say it's warm, because there is a harmonic distortion, okay? Like most of the things that are so engaging, like I always say. Okay, so vintage, but still in use. Very robust. More expensive than neodymium and ferrite. Yes, they're more expensive. Easy to magnetize and at the same time demagnetize, so you can fine-tune the pair of speakers. That is something that a lot of people don't think about, because if you don't have an exact type of strength, and meaning how the speaker is then going to behave, move the air, if you have a discrepancy, you're going to have different sound signatures and different timing. So if you have the capability of adjusting, really fine-tuning the magnetization, that's going to really help the stereo effect, and not only. It is much more resistant to corrosion than neodymium, very resistant to high temperatures, more than all. It goes all the way to 650 degrees Celsius, the Curie point. This loss of magnetization is similar to neodymium, and they lose, they say, around 2-3% per decade, okay? So a little more actually, but we're close. Meaning about 1 dB over 40 years, according to a study, as I was mentioning before, by Special Metals & Co. of Osaka, Japan, okay? So there is a fact behind this. Interesting. And also, Alnico magnets can be remagnetized endlessly. How many times you want. No problem. Okay, the last two very quickly because they're not that relevant. Samarium cobalt. Made from samarium and cobalt. Really. They offer high magnetic strength and excellent temperature stability. Samarium cobalt magnets find common uses in specialized audio equipment that require temperature resistance and high performance. These magnets, in fact, are often found in military and aerospace audio systems. Interesting. That's why I added it. Even less used in audio actually is the bonded type. This is the worst and the cheapest. It is compressed and injected with metals and resins, and it's quite bad for audio, but sometimes you need this in order to be really damn crappy cheap. That's it. Okay, point number 4. Now I want to share my experience with the Altic 19s. Because for some time, and I must admit, since the beginning, I sensed that there was some problems in the loudness, the volume of the two speakers. There was a slight difference on the right one. I thought it was the crossover, but as you know, I did so many tests and I changed them twice, three times actually, because I brought back to spec the original. Then I got the cheaper one off eBay, and then I got the high performance, and also fourth one is right here. It just arrived, and I'm gonna start testing it, the Werner Janusz type, and afterwards I'm gonna do another video combining them all, testing them all together. But that's a different story. But the problem remained, even changing amps, preamps, everything. So it was the speaker. And in the end, I decided to send all 4, the 2 compression drivers, which are the horns, and behind the horns, and the 2 woofers of the Altic 19s to a specialized lab, which fortunately here in Italy we have a great, very famous, renowned lab, Montagna Audio by Giorgio Montagna, and he is a guru for this. And And if you, at least his prices are very, very good. I mean, if you just want to remagnetize them, he asked like around, I don't remember, but more or less 25 euro, meaning about $27-28 per element, per speaker. But if you want a documentation, which I wanted, at 40 euro each, which is including the shipping and everything. So pretty good. And in fact, I'm going to show you now something. Actually, let's start immediately to take a look at the different diagrams. Now, I'm going to look at them here, but you're going to see the pictures directly. Okay, let's start with this one. What you're looking at is what happened to the two woofers, okay? The two woofers after the remagnetization. Now, as you can see, it says, attention, it's written in Italian. This is not a true frequency response because it is coming from a recording. He is using a special type, as you can see, the Breuel-Kaier 4134 microphone. Hence, it's not going to be exactly in reality, clearly. But with this very sensitive type of microphone, he has this these results. One is red, one is black, to distinguish them. And they're pretty similar, I must admit, okay? One is a little higher, one is a little lower. I mean, it's the vintage ones, guys. That can happen. Now, here in the other picture, these are the same two, the woofers, before the magnetization. And as you can see, starting around 60 hertz, there is a difference all the way up to about 1,000 or so. Especially in the one, number one. The red one is, as you can see, it's a little lower, a few dB lower. The power is lower. So there was actually something. In fact, that's why, if you take a look again to the first one, now the remagnetization brought them back to a similar curve. Okay, then we are going to take a look to the other pair, which are the compression drivers for the horns. And once again, here we have the two types of driver. One is red and one is black, to understand which is which. And as you can see, especially in the higher frequencies, there is a drop. And there is a reason, actually. But this is what happened after the remagnetization. And someone could say, but geez, the black one is down. It's not following the same wave, let's say, the same silhouette of the red driver. Why? What happened? They're supposed to be aligned. True. You are right. In fact, if we see behind the other drawing, we can see how they performed before the remagnetization. And as you can see, actually, there isn't that much of a difference. You can see that there is a little bit of difference in both of these images because they don't perform in the same way. It's just to show you that more or less the compression drivers remain the same. Why, you would ask, there is this drop in the very high frequencies? Very simple, because he discovered that there is a small dent in the diaphragm. Now, it's very hard to find original Altic diaphragms. And in fact, I am on the search for the original. You can find dozens of Chinese replicas on eBay, but even Giorgio Montagna said, drop them. Leave them aside. There are complete shit. So do not use them, okay, guys? They're never going to perform like this. Hence, I'm on the search. Probably it's just best to get a new driver at that point, and I will have to remagnetize it. We will see. But at the same time, it's not a big issue, because with the new crossover from Werner Janusz, which I'm about to explore, I asked to insert a specific frequency cut, in order to use super tweeters. So after about 15 kilohertz, up the frequencies above 15 kilohertz are going to be practically rolled off from the compressor driver, and they're going to pass over to the, you're going to see in another video, these super tweeters. Okay? And those super tweeters should be able to re-equalize everything and push the frequency extension range even higher. I'm a little skeptic about super tweeters. Yes, I know I had them, but they may smudge a little bit the image. But with a dedicated crossover, things are very different, okay? Or you use a DSP or you use a dedicated crossover. And in fact, I have it, ready to see how they perform. In any case, apart from that, I do want to search another diaphragm for the compressor, because it's just too bad to see something ruined like that. Okay, but in any case, if you check the good one, a lot of people don't think that these compression drivers can go all the way up to 20 kilohertz. Here is proof. They sure do, except the one with the diaphragm, broken diaphragm. Okay, so apart from this, what are the results? Because I got them back, installed them, and obviously I started my listening session. And things got better over time. But immediately since the start, it was evident that there was a difference. Oh my God. Immediately there was much more dynamics clearly, obviously, in the response, in the reproduction, the playback. Fantastic. Much more coherent, all the different parts, because as you know, those frequencies are not playing by themselves. They're influencing the rest and vice versa. So as soon as you correct that, you immediately feel something more tuned, more organic. So there is this very more dynamic sound, really, truly, I mean, fantastic, just more believable, more realistic and engaging and fun and just more present. Yeah, more present. And at the same time, the lower note frequencies, the bass note, was much more controlled. You finally had a good impact. In fact, it almost seemed less deep because the two things are combined. I was probably hearing some distortion, which seemed a little more boomy. So in the end, we have a much better reproduction, and actually with this new energizement, remagnetization of the different drivers, speakers, etc., you can really appreciate more the sound signature of the Altix, but of any type of loudspeaker. I also wanted to add on the sound signature that the tone, okay, the tonality of the instruments, of the voices, that also was more crisp, more fresh, more convincing. Okay, that is also something I wanted to say, because tone is very important, not only dynamic and things like that. Something that I want to underline after I did this analysis and experience is that probably it's not a matter of time, meaning my loudspeakers are probably 40, maybe 50 years old, could be, but it's not that much the problem, because both speakers should have been demagnetized, okay? It's not a problem of the Alnicos. One of the woofers probably got bashed, probably got dropped or something, and lost, or maybe a very high temperature. Who knows? Who knows where they were? And maybe that created, I can't be sure, that created the problem, okay? Not so much the time, because if you instead look at, you've seen the pictures, if you instead look at the good woofer, we could say the one that did not present any problems, it didn't change that much when it was remagnetized. I mean, apart from the problem, it didn't go back up various dBs. It just slightly moved. So that is time, at least for now, maybe in 50 more years, yes, is not that important as we are usually thinking about these vintage speakers. Okay, guys, I hope this video was interesting, useful. Tell me if you have remagnetized or not, what differences you found, and also if you want to share some names, because I'm pretty sure it's not that easy to find people who have the proper machines and do it correctly. So if you want to share also that wherever you are, that's very appreciated. I'll put the link to Giorgio Montagna for those of you who are in Italy or in the roundabouts. Thank you again for watching, and remember, music is more analog.
Well guys, if you're enjoying my videos and you're enjoying my channel, please consider to subscribe by clicking the black and white logo here below. Also, don't forget to click the notification bell so you'll never miss an episode and you will become a true member of the analog community.